What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Ethereum today, ETH, at the request of Cal. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, my friends, and let's get into it. So Ethereum here, sitting at about 33.75 on this, the 29th of December. It is Sunday. Okay, we're coming to the end of the month, the end of the week, the end of the year. 17 hours, 47 minutes left in the week. We got about 3 days left in the year. This next 3-day period, 2 days, 18 hours left, will be the end of the year. And then we're going into 2025, my friends. Good things are going to come. If we're looking at the RSI here, if I can just get it pulled up, you can see that we are finding support potentially in this area, this little area here, an area that we found support before. We kind of found it back here, a little bit lower here, but still relative to this area, we found support there. We even found support back here and a little bit right here, right? All in this kind of zone. If we go back in time, you can even see that you found support in these areas too, right? So we're looking to do that here. It's nice getting overbought and then not getting oversold. That's a testament of strength. Right now, relatively speaking, like here, you look weak, but overall, in this overall context, you look very bullish. And not to mention, you're at the area where I would expect in the daily RSI that you bounce. So I think that that's a good case to be made that this right here, this price down at about 3,100 is your low. If we take the relative low to the relative high here, you went right down to your 0.5, and I often say that I don't expect significance on the 0.5. I don't really mention it ever that you would find support on that, but when you do find significance, you get significant moves. Ethereum from that low in the course of like less than a day, it moved up about, what is that, almost 15%. For the second highest by market cap crypto in the whole space to move up 16%, 15%, whatever that was, in less than a day's time, I think that's pretty significant, right? And afterwards, you've been finding support on the 382. That's a nice look. I would like you to get above the 236. Right now, that's your goal, okay? Any day. It doesn't have to be today. It doesn't have to be by the end of this week. It doesn't even have to be by the end of this month. But your goal would be to close above 3,600 and maintain closing prices above 3,300. Okay, so you want to close above 33. You want to also close above 36. You don't want to, maybe I should say, you don't want to close below 33. You do want to close above 36. When you close above 36, likely what that means is that this is your low and that you are going to take out these highs. So if we are going to take out these highs, if you do break above 3,600 and you do take out those highs, where might you go? And let's go through with that. So looking at this overall, maybe on a daily perspective, you know, from this relative high here to this relative low, get it right on the high. Right, if you were to go higher than this high, it might be wise to consider the primary target zone, right? 4,400 to 4,800. So if you break above 3,600, essentially what I'm telling you is, in my genuine opinion, in a very short amount of time from there, you would see 4,400 at a minimum, if not upwards to about $4,900, okay? This is what they call the primary target zone for fib extensions, okay? That's the primary fib extension zone. It's the primary area because that's where you normally go first. If you were to make this move, let's say you were starting here, here's point A, here's point B, but here's your primary zone, likely you would find resistance in this area and then go to your next area, the secondary zone, and then you go to your tertiary area, right? But still on an overall path up here, but on that way, you have stops. Here's your primary zone. Your secondary zone is the 1886 to the 2618. And I think it's important to mention the secondary zone because this is a relatively small fib, right? On this perspective, it looks like it's a relatively large fib. It looks somewhat significant here, but I'm just telling you that is a relatively small fib. With small fibs, it's pretty common to see the secondary zone come into play rather immediately. So while normally I consider this, and we might find turbulence there a little bit, you know, whatever, normally I would consider this, being that this is a, let's say, less significant fib than some other fibs, I think considering the secondary zone, the 2618 to the 1886 might be something we could apply here. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. I want to draw another fib on here, something from a longer term perspective. The overall high that we had in March to the low that we had in August through this consolidation phase. And you can see here, the 1272 lines up very well. So this is the minimum target of this greater fib, in which case the primary target zone has more effect, I would say. The 1272 lines up very well with the 1618 of this lesser fib, which is still, that's this primary target zone, man. That's the top of it there. So there's a real solid case to be made that if Ethereum breaks above $3,600, you're not stopping until you see about $4,900, right? You're pushing 5K. And you could make sense out of finding resistance there by the end of January because 5K, I mean, that's a pretty significant area of resistance, right? Psychologically speaking. Not only that, it's also where your current all-time highs are, right? So you could go just above it, find some resistance there, consolidate, and then continue to build afterwards. I don't know. You've got the 1618 from this high to low, lining up with the 1272 from this high to low. You've got the 1886 and the 200 level, this is the minimum target area of the secondary fib extensions, lining up with the mid target area of the primary fib extensions on this fib here. So you've got congruence there. And then there's a little bit of congruence even here, but not so much. I would say by the end of January, I would think you're anywhere from $5,500 to about $5,000. $49 to $5,500 is my guess. Let's refine it a little bit better. $5,450 to 49, yeah, 4,900. That's where I think you're going to be. So $3,375 now. That's the current prediction. I think that you will find support here and move up higher. If we look at this relative high to low for what it is in itself, you know, you're finding support right on the golden ratio there. It's perfect, man. It really does look perfect. And truthfully, with how it looks now, it looks as though you're finding resistance here, right? And you did reject that area, but I think when this move, like by May of 2025, it's just going to seem like you're moving straight up, right? Like this is just, it's going to seem like how this seems like a straight up move, but we had a 2-month period where we consolidated, right? It's going to be like that. It's going to seem like a straight up move. Like this is just a waypoint along a greater route upwards, which I think by the end of January would put you somewhere at about $4,900 to $5,400. If you go any higher, 6,100 would be the highest I see you going by the end of January. But I personally don't think you see that price. You could, but I don't know if you do. I mean, you could. It's possible, I suppose. Let me run with that idea real quick. Let's see. I mean, you could. It is possible. You could. I don't know. Even 7,400 might be possible by the end. I don't think you see that price by the end of January. I thought you would. I had those targets at the beginning of December, but look at how far down we've come right now. Now we're working with a different kind of thing. It's the end of the year. We haven't moved up at all still, so got to move the targets down. Maybe 61 is the potential high that we could see in January. I don't think we see 7,000 though, but we'll see. Well, time will tell. I want to look at ETH versus BTC, and then we can finish this video up. Okay, ETH, BTC on Binance. Come on, there we go. Weekly bullish divergence, yeah, you've got a nice triple bottom in your RSI, higher lows here, dramatically lower lows there, right? Relative higher lows with lower lows as well. I definitely believe that Ethereum's found its low versus Bitcoin. Absolutely, I do. A nice kind of parabolic shape to the downside, right? And now you're probably going to get a nice bounce. I would expect a V-shaped recovery. After all, that's kind of the only recoveries that Ethereum knows versus Bitcoin is V-shaped recoveries. Even that U is a V, right? Like even that's a V. So I would assume we get a rapid recovery versus Bitcoin here in a very short amount of time. January could be the month that kicks it off, right? With these months that are like kind of, let's call them ignition points, you get closes that engulf months of closing action beforehand. Let me explain what that means, right? For example, here, okay, you're at the bottom here. This was the low. This was the first month that you moved up, sure. But you didn't really get things going until this month. And debatably, I mean, you didn't get things going until 2 months after that even. But this month is when things really started to get going, where you broke out of this low consolidation phase, okay? When you did that, you closed above 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months of closing periods, okay? You consolidated again here. Whenever it came time to break out, you closed above all that consolidation range, and then you even closed above like all this stuff going back here. That actually might not be as relevant, but I'm just talking about the relative low here. Looking at this relative low where you're at now, if Ethereum does bounce here, if January is a good month for Ethereum versus Bitcoin, my thought is you'd probably close above all of these lows here, which would mean that Ethereum versus Bitcoin would gain in value something at least like 20% or more. Let's see here. Hold on real quick. Let's run with that. Bitcoin on Coinbase, I'm expecting will be at anything from 120 to 142,000. Okay, let's go to 120. Or 123 was the actual minimum target. 123. Okay, right there. That's 30%. Bitcoin moves up 30%. Okay. We can use the ribbons, sure, whatever, 30%. if Ethereum is at $4,900, which is the minimum target we have, right? That would put it at 44%. So 30% to 44, that's a 15% difference, which would mean that this would be, it would be more like here at the red line, which is still above like 3 months of closing action. It's not on par with what I was looking for. Maybe something bigger. So maybe Ethereum doesn't top at 4,900, right? That's the minimum kind of target anyways. The maximum is 5,400. What if it goes to 5,000 itself and it sees an overall 50% growth? Well, then if it sees a 50% growth, Bitcoin or Ethereum can move up 20%, kind of close above the last 5 months of closing periods on a monthly basis, close above these previous areas of resistance, close above the 236. I could see that. I don't know. Hard to say. Let me look at this on another perspective too. Hold on. 23% up, high to low. I mean, maybe 30%, man. But you might, by the end of January, you might be here, and then going into February and later, you might build out higher, right? You don't have to, just because it's the end of January doesn't mean you have to hit this next target. I'm just thinking something for the end of January that closes above the last like 4, even 5 months of price, right, at a minimum versus Bitcoin. So if that were to be the case, 20% should do it. 21% should do it. And 21%, if Bitcoin were to move up to 123K, then Ethereum, because Bitcoin would have to move up 30% for that. For Ethereum to outpace Bitcoin by 20%, it would have to go 50%, right? Am I right in that math? Which would mean Ethereum would have to be at 50K if Bitcoin was at 123K. But if Bitcoin went to 142K, which is the higher end of my expectation, that's a 50% pump, essentially. 50% pump on the same idea, because that doesn't need to change. 21%, 50% would mean that this needs to pump 70%. And 70% Ethereum pump would put it all the way at about 5,700, which is just outside of the expected zone that we were going over, right? But it's not impossible. It's definitely not like the high limits. It's just above the 1414. And to be fair, you do at times break just above the 1414 and find resistance. I don't know. There's sense to be made. I was just looking really to see what would make the most sense. And to me, looking at this, what I'm gathering is it would make the most sense that Bitcoin is probably not at 142K by the end of January, but it probably is above 123K. Ethereum is probably not at $4,900 by the end of January, but it probably is not as high as 58. I bet you really are probably around that $5,400 area, which might put Bitcoin around like 130 or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let's do some stuff real quick before we actually end the video. Weekly ribbon here, looking bullish, definitely looking bullish. I like the bounce right there. 3-day time frame, bullish enough, whatever. Daily time frame, contracting. We'd like to see you close above this yellow line, which is at about, yeah, you guessed it, about 3,600, 35, just above 35. But if you close above 36, remember, guys, that's the key area we're looking to close above. You don't want to close really below, was it 32? I think it's 3,200. You don't want to, maybe it's 33. I don't know. You don't want to close too much lower. Monthly time frame. Monthly looks great as well. Monthly says we're just getting started, which would imply that if this month was red, likely the next 3 are going to be green. So anyways, that's all I got, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.